Hello, and welcome to, or welcome back to, my channel. My name is Jimmy, and this is my Pokemon Crystal Hardcore Nuzlocke. This is my second ever Nuzlocke that I've seen through until finish. And if you're unfamiliar with what a Nuzlocke is, or a hardcore variant of Nuzlocks, it is a set of self-imposed rules to increase the difficulty of any given Pokemon game. Rule number 1, you can only catch the first Pokemon you encounter on any given route, town, or cave, etc, etc. Rule 2, if a Pokemon faints, you must permanently box it or release it as it is considered dead. Rule 3, which isn't technically considered a rule, but I think most people do it anyways, is you must nickname your Pokemon in order to form a closer bond so you can really feel like a piece of shit if you lose a Pokemon. The hardcore variant adds additional rules, being that your Pokemon can only be as high a level as the next gym leader's ace Pokemon, not being able to use items in battle except for Pokeballs to catch your route encounters, and also having the battle mode on set instead of shift, which just means that after you knock out a Pokemon, it doesn't tell you what your opponent is going to switch into, and it doesn't give you the opportunity to switch first. I also run a team cap for each gym, being 2 Pokemon for the first gym, and then opening 1 more slot after each badge I obtain. 3 Pokemon for Gym 2, 4 Pokemon for Gym 3, and so on and so forth. The rules will also be in the description. So our run starts as most crystal runs do, in a panic because we overslept. I wonder if that's a throwback to Ash sleeping through his alarm in the anime. A strange old man then appears in our bedroom to tell us about Pokemon and the world we live in. I'm sure he's supposed to be talking directly to the player, but then he asks the character for their name as if he's talking to them and says we'll meet later. But then later on he talks to the character as if they are meeting for the first time. Whatever. So we go downstairs, and our mom tells us that our phone is back from the repair shop. That's what happens when you give a 10-year-old a cell phone. He probably dropped it in his bowl of cereal or something. She then asks us if we know how to use a phone, and after saying yes, she explains it to us anyways. All these years, I thought the mom kind of a dumb for explaining it, even though we say we know how. But as a parent, it really makes sense having to explain the obvious over and over again. I mean, he did already break it at least once. Kids. Apparently mom has a friend in this game, so that's cool. We head next door to Elm's lab where he goes on a rant over something I wasn't really paying attention to before we choose our starter. And I go for the best grass type starter of all time, Bulbasaur. We then get the potion that wasn't in our PC like the first game, because I'm guessing most people didn't even check their PC in the first games, or maybe just to streamline the game a bit, who knows. Then we arrive in Cherry Grove, where a third old man is waiting to tutorial us before giving us the map card for the Pokegear to save a slot in the bag. Then if you're wondering which game is better, red or blue, the NPC battle on Route 30 lets you know. The guy up top wins the battle. We then receive a mystery egg from the self-proclaimed Mr. Pokemon, which you'd think he'd be a bit more of a recurring character in the series, being the titular character and all. Then we get a Pokedex from Professor Oak before taking a nap at Mr. Pokemon's house. After taking a single step outside, we get a panicked call from Professor Elm saying a young hooligan took one of his Pokemon. Not sure why he didn't take both remaining Pokemon so as to not leave the last one on the table for all eternity. But then rushing back to Cherry Grove, we battle our rival for the first time. And man, he is such a dick. Like, people give Gary a hard time for being a jerk, but this guy just shit-talks you every time he sees you. So after a half-dozen turns of slamming into each other, Bulbasaur comes out victorious. We then get to Elm's lab and tell the officer the boy's name. Carrot Top. Carrot Top. Carrot Top. The officer then leaves, never to be seen again. Elm's helper gives us the first Pokeballs, and the Nuzlocke officially begins. At home, we tell Mom to keep her hands off our earnings, then go to Route 29 where a man offers to teach us how to catch Pokemon. But he can't help us get infinite rare candies like the man in red and blue, so we kick him to the curb and catch ourselves a Rattata named Timmy Turner. And on Route 46, a Geodude named Brocky 2. Let's see if it's better than the first Brocky. On Route 30, we catch a Spinarak named Six-Legged Freak and train up Brocky 2. And on Route 31, we find a Poliwag, which promptly destroys Brocky 2. Look, I've only ever played Crystal once before, and other than that, I don't think any other games have a water type Pokemon with water attacks this early in the game. I didn't think he'd have anything to knock out Brocky too. So I demand it replaces the life it took, and Swirlytum joins the team. In Dark Cave, we catch a Zubat and name it Guano, then release Brocky 2's soul, and it immediately returns to us in the form of Ghastly, which I should have named Brocky's ghost. We then go to the Ruins of Alph to solve a puzzle. I always mix these two stupid bottom pieces up. So I came here in hopes of catching an unknown that has a hidden power that's super effective against flying, and I swear to God, I actually found one first shot. I had a feeling we were in luck when it one-shot Guano, and I guess he was Guano after all. We catch the unknown and name it I Spy. Get it? Because it's the letter I, and it also has one eye. Never mind. So he actually happens to have an electric type hidden power, and I was so excited because I had no idea how I was going to take on Falconer otherwise. A couple hidden power electrics take out Pidgey, and then I use it again on Pidgeotto. I figured he'd done what I needed him for, so I stayed in, risking his life, and the crazy son of a bitch survived, taking out Pidgeotto and winning us the badge. I officially love this little guy, and he will be a permanent resident in our team. Helm's assistant gives us the mystery egg from earlier, and we pick Bulbasaur back up for our third team member before heading south and catching a Hoothoot I named Eyebrows. Then we give up our Onyx encounter in Union Cave because it wouldn't stay in the damn ball. With no possible encounters on Route 33 at this time of night, we head into Ilex Forest to catch an Oddish named Odysseus. We trade out Bulbasaur for the flying type, Eyebrows, to get a super effective move against the next gym leader, but have to take out Team Rocket and Slowpoke well. Wait a minute. Didn't I say we weren't going to see these guys again? As I was saying, everything is normal in Slowpoke well, and we catch ourselves one and name it Pink Homer. He won't be any good against Bugsy, so we bring Timmy Turner, Eyebrows, and Swirlytum to take on the gym. Swirlytum uses Water Gun to take out Metapod, only taking a small amount of damages from its tackle. Then Kakuna comes out and starts to use Poison Sting, which is only slightly scary because I didn't put a Poison Cure Berry on Swirlytum. So I put it to sleep before taking it down with a critical Water Gun. Bugsy then sends out Bugsy's ace, Scyther, who starts powering up his Fury Cutter. Swirlytum puts Scyther to sleep, so I can safely switch into Eyebrows and start pecking him. Scyther wakes up and hits with a quick attack. I use Peck again, and Scyther uses Fury Cutter, which does no more damage than a slight breeze. We trade attacks again, and Scyther falls, earning us the Hive Badge. We deposit Eyebrows and pick up Bulbasaur and I Spy. Some quick training and an evolution later, we march on to face Carrot Top at the entrance to Ilex Forest. After Swirlytum puts Ghastly in a sleeper hold, he pulls out his Super Soaker and hoses him down, extinguishing the Black Sun. Zubat comes out next, so I switch into I Spy, forgetting that Zubat has a super effective attack. He does a solid chunk of damage after taking a hidden power electric, forcing me to swap into Timmy Turner, who Ozzy Osbournes his way to victory over the poor flying mammal. Quilava comes out and goes for the revenge kill, but falls short, allowing me to send out Swirlytum and uses Super Soaker. Quilava tries for an Ember, but it's not enough to scare Swirlytum, and we beat Carrot Top for the second time. He then shows us his dark side, exclaiming all the hatred he has for the weak. How do you feel about sand there, big guy? Inside the forest, we wrestle a Farfetch'd back to his owner, who gives us the HM Cut in return, allowing us to collect Headbutt from a stranger, which we use back in Azalea Town to find a Spearow named Peckerhead. North of the forest, we find an Abra, who stays in the ball, and I go for a creative name with this one, Avada Kedavra. Avadakadav. Then inside the daycare, we have yet another old man help us on our journey. We collect an odd egg, then deposit Timmy Turner and pick up Avadakadav to teach him some elemental punches, excluding Thunder Punch, because we already have that type covered. Thanks, I Spy. It's now time for this channel's first sponsorship, this random guy's bike shop. If you need a bike in the Johto area, this guy's bike shop is the place for you. Need to hatch some eggs? Pick up a brand new bike, collapsible for easy storage. Located in an alley behind the Goldenrod department store. Now back to the game. We hatch our odd egg, and out comes a Magby named Ramgam. On Route 35, we catch a Snubble named Underbite before evolving Avadakadav and Timmy Turner. Now feeling slightly prepared, we challenge Whitney, the Miltank gym leader. She leads with Clefairy, and I send out Bulbasaur. Bulbasaur gets slapped around a bit and lands 2 Razor Leafs, then takes a turn to set up Reflect. Clefairy metronomes an Ember before we knock it out with a Razor Leaf. Then comes out her ace, the Big and Scary. I send out Timmy Turner to get off a Hyper Fang, but a critical stomp ignores the Reflect wall and sends all plans out the window. I decide to sacrifice Timmy, getting off a Scary Face to assure we outspeed for the rest of the battle. Swirlytum comes out and I go for the Hypnosis, but miss twice, allowing Miltank to do a ton of damage with Rollout. The third Hypnosis hits, and I have to switch into Bulbasaur to get another Reflect up. Bulbasaur hits with a Razor Leaf, then I switch into Swirlytum for some reason that I can't really explain. Swirly hits with a Water Gun, and Miltank then wakes up and shows Swirly her udders, attracting Swirly with the highest level of sexy. Miltank then starts to roll out, and Swirlytum misses with Hypnosis. His tank is drained of all water, and we say goodbye. I send out Bulbasaur and get another Reflect up, and Miltank continues her rampage. I give up hope, going to sacrifice Bulbasaur to get another Razor Leaf off, but Miltank misses, giving us another chance to win. Miltank survives a critical Razor Leaf with a sliver of health, but misses Rollout again. One final Razor Leaf, and we survive the battle with a 50% success rate. We say goodbye to Timmy Turner and Swirlytum, and pick up Ramgam and Pink Homer before seeing what's with the weird tree on Route 36. We then pick up a Growlithe named Barklith, maybe Barkinine would have been better, before heading into Ekritique. We meet Bill from Kanto, who casually mentions his time travel machine, and we go back to Goldenrod to see if he'll give us a cool Pokemon from 2 years ago, which he does. We get an Eevee named Fiverr, and on our way back north, we enter a bug catching contest and catch a Caterpie. And after losing to 3 butterflies, we can name it Slingshot. Mount Mortar gives us a chance to catch Machop, which we take graciously and name it Goro. And on Route 38 we catch a Pidgeotto named Eagle! And then we enter the extremely unsafe building, the Burnt Tower, in which we catch a Coughing and name it Hindenburg. Carrot Top waits for us inside, blaming us for there being no legendary Pokemon in here. What a weird guy. He leads with Haunter and gets a Curse off against Pink Homer, barely surviving Confusion. Curse and Lick do some nasty damage, but Homer takes out Haunter with a Confusion. Magnemite comes out, so we switch into Ramgam. Thundershock hits hard, but Ramgam takes it out with a strong Fire Punch. I have to switch into I Spy to take on Zubat, but it gets confused and pokes itself in the eye. Zubat's bite scares me into the switch, so I go into Pink Homer, again forgetting that Zubat has a super effective move against Psychic types. I then send out Fiverr and do some massive damage with a crit tackle. An exchange of blows leaves Zubat in a heap on the floor, and Carrot Top sends out Quilava. Fiverr does barely any damage and catches an Ember, leaving him with a burn. Ramgam comes out and tanks Ember, retaliating with a solid Dizzy Punch. Quilava gets a Leer off, and then does huge damage on a quick attack. Before switching out, Ramgam hits another Dizzy Punch, which confuses Quilava. I'm not sure anyone else can take another hit, so I have to switch into Bulbasaur. Quilava hits itself in confusion, and then does it again, and I take the W. Carrot Top calls us a wimp because we beat him, and then the condemned building collapses a bit, and we fall to the basement, which injures us in no way whatsoever. Suicune does a little dance around us before taking off, and then Eugene tells us he dug a hole through the floor to get to the basement. Like, through the wood floor, with joists and stuff. Sure. He cries about seeing Suicune, and then takes off. On Route 39 we catch a Tauros named Ash Cottom, and do some training before taking on the Evolution Sisters. We beat all 5 with no losses, and we are given Surf as a reward, but to make use of it outside of battle, we have to beat Morty, the 4th gym leader. He leads with Ghastly, and I lead with Ramgam. One fiery right jab takes down Ghastly. Damn, Magby isn't half bad. Haunter comes out, and Ramgam goes for a left hook, catching Haunter in the jaw and taking him down with one punch too. Gengar is third, missing Hypnosis and taking a Fire Punch much better than the other two Mons did. He misses Hypnosis again, and takes another Fire Punch. A third Hypnosis fails, and Gengar falls to Fire Punch. A second Haunter comes out, and I switch into I Spy just for fun. Haunter uses Mean Look, and I clench up a little bit. Then he uses Nightshade, doing 23 damage, and Hidden Power does about a third of his health. Haunter uses Mimic for some reason, and copies my attack before eating another Hidden Power. I guess they are tied for speed because I hit another Hidden Power before Haunter hits with another Nightshade. Unable to switch out, I pray to win the speed tie, but Haunter moves first and takes out I Spy with another Nightshade. With tears in my eyes, I send out Pink Homer to knock out Haunter, earning us the Fog Badge. I jump into the abyss, hoping to see I Spy again, but no matter how many times I try, the gods don't allow my actions to follow through, so I carry on with a small hole in my heart. After picking up our 6th team member, Goro, I spend an embarrassing amount of time trying to headbutt trees at the battle tower, only to realize there are no Pokemon in those trees. We then ascend the lighthouse to activate Jasmine's fetch quest, and we travel across the sea, catching a Tentacool named Jellydude and a Mantine named Steve. Never forget. At the north end of Cianwood, we encounter Suicune again, and Eugene challenges us to a battle. Fiver tackles Drowsy, and Drowsy puts Fiver to sleep, then heals with Dream Eater, so I switch to Ash Caught. A powerful Horn attack puts Drowsy in the red, but when Drowsy lands another Hypnosis, I switch into Ramgam to nullify his Dream Eater. Fire Punch knocks out Drowsy, and he switches into Electrode. I switch into Bulbasaur, and Electrode lands a Thunder, which paralyzes Bulbasaur. Electrode hits with Screech, and Bulbasaur lands a Poison Powder. I switch into Ramgam, and Electrode starts to roll out. I get a smokescreen off and barely survive the second rollout. Ash Caught comes out into a rollout number 3 and 4, and hits the snooze button, requiring me to switch out again. Bulbasaur enters the battlefield, dodging the 5th rollout and getting off a Razor Leaf, taking out Electrode. He sends out Haunter, so I send out Pink Homer and take a paralyzing lick. Confused licking ensues, and the battle ends with much discomfort. While training up, I decide that a Machamp and Slowking would be of great help against Chuck, so I trek all the way back to Slowpoke Well to get a King's Rock, only to be unable to figure out how to trade between emulators. My disappointment is immeasurable. So with a level cap of 30, I evolve Goro into a boring 2-armed bodybuilder and head into the gym. I'm a bit underleveled, but since Jasmine's level cap is 35 and then Price's goes back down to 31, I don't have much room to grow. He leads with Primeape, and Homer leads with Confusion. Primeape starts to rage as Homer uses more big words. Primeape's rage builds, and one more Confusion takes it down. Chuck then sends out Poliwrath, so I switch into Bulbasaur. Poliwrath misses Hypnosis, and I set up a Reflect. He then misses a second Hypnosis, and I use Razor Leaf. He decides to get smart and uses Mind Reader, taking another Razor Leaf before finally landing with Hypnosis. Poliwrath lands a Dynamic Punch, confusing Bulbasaur, who wakes up to use Synthesis. He hits another Dynamic Punch, which knocks Bulbasaur out of confusion, and I set up another Reflect. He misses Dynamic Punch, and I scatter some toxic chemicals all over him. Another Razor Leaf and some poison damage takes out Poliwrath, and Chuck gives us the Dynamo badge, and his wife gives us the HM for Fly. We fly back to the top of the lighthouse to deliver the medicine for Ampharos, and Jasmine heads back to her gym. We then head east of Ecruteak to catch an Ekans named Cobra Kai, and a Sentret named Rocky, and if I caught a Stantler I would have named it Bullwinkle. Then at the Lake of Rage we catch a shiny Gyarados and name it Hail Hydra. We then meet Lance and help him assault some shop owners, and I was unaware they were wearing bomb vests, and Fiver leaps in front, saving me from the blast. Back near Olivine, we evolve Ramgam into Magmar and then challenge Jasmine. We lead with our newly evolved Fire Duck and handily take out her Magnemite with a Fire Punch. She then switches straight into her Ace Steelix and takes a massive Fire Punch before getting an insanely lucky crit, knocking out Ramgam with a Rock Throw. I send out Pink Homer and Jasmine heals with a Hyper Potion. Homer uses Surf and takes an Iron Tail. Homer uses Surf again and then takes another Iron Tail before taking down a Solid Steel Snake. She sends out her second Magnemite and I trade into Bulbasaur. A critical Razor Leaf does good damage, but it uses Thunder Wave and hits a decent Thunderbolt, so I decide to switch out. Ashcottom also takes a powerful Thunderbolt, and with no good switch options, I go for Strength and get a critical hit, taking out Magnemite. Jasmine gives us her badge, and we head to Mahogany Town again. I release Ramgam and take out Goro to do some training. Oh, hello there, Entei. After trying to figure out this ice puzzle for 10 minutes, I can finally take on Pryce. I lead with Goro using Karate Chop against his Seal. Seal hits an Icy Wind, then promptly goes to sleep. Goro shows him the error of his ways and takes him out with a critical Karate Chop. Pryce sends out Dugong and uses Aurora Beam. Goro uses a Low Kick and Dugong uses Rest. A Low Kick and a Karate Chop take out Dugong, and Pryce sends out Piloswine. He uses Fury Attack for minimal damage, and Goro does more than half his health with the Low Kick. Piloswine then misses with Blizzard, and falls to another Low Kick, earning us the Glacier Badge and a rubbish TM. Professor Elm then tells us about some criminals in Goldenrod, but I have no idea what he's talking about because I got rid of Team Rocket in the last game. But I'm forced to check it out anyways, so I train up Hindenburg and head to the top of the tower. The leader of the radio tower, or whatever he is, challenges me to a battle. He sends out like 100 explosives, and after whittling down the Hydra, I send out Pink Homer, who gets in real close to one and gets blown to smithereens. I was really starting to like him too. He gives us a key to the underground, so after picking up Peckerhead and training him, we head downstairs to fight our rival. This soulless bastard. Hey, maybe that's why they made him a redhead. Anyways, he leads with Golbat, which hasn't evolved due to his lack of friendship. I lead with Hindenburg and start to roll out, which is a bad idea because locking yourself into a move rarely works out for you in a Nuzlocke. The Berg gets confused but breaks through for another rolling pass. Golbat hits with Wing Attack, and then Hindenburg hits himself, breaking out of the rollout, which gives me the opportunity to switch into Hydra. Golbat attacks, causing the red snake to go into a dragon-like rage. Carrot Top then sends out Hydra's one weakness, a tiny magnet. I go into Goro, who takes a Thunder Shock on the switch. Karate Chop is a one-hit knockout, and out comes Haunter. Haunter talks shit about Goro's puny muscles, causing him to take some extra damage each turn. I then go for Foresight to be able to strike back at the Ghost type. Haunter uses Shadow Ball before I hit him with a Karate Chop, which is apparently not very effective. Foresight doesn't really seem like it's worth it then, does it? Goro takes off to hit up the gym, and I send out Peckerhead. Shadow Ball has no effect on Peckerhead, and we take out Haunter with a Peck. Sneasel comes out, so I switch into Ashcottom, who shrugs off a feint attack, and then retaliates with a giant boulder, leaving Sneasel with a small amount of HP. Another strength, and Sneasel is out of the way. Quilava comes out last, and a Surf takes out half of his health. Quilava attempts to blind Tauros, but strength hits Quilava, taking him down. Carrot Top then tries to understand the power of friendship, but leaves before we can give him a hug. We find the radio tower director in the basement of the department store, and he gives us a card key to get into his office. Up top, he gives us a clear bell that we're not going to use. On Route 44, we're lucky enough to find a Heracross in one of the headbutt trees, so we catch it and name it Kabuterimon. In the ice path, we skate around on the ice for a bit before finding HM07 Waterfall. Coughing evolves off of a bunch of Zubats, and then we find a Swinub and name it Ice Pig. South of Blackthorn, we catch a Gligar and named her Barbara. After a bunch of training, we're ready to take on the final gym leader. I lead with Kabuterimon, trying to build up some Fury Cutters, but her Dragonair uses Thunder Wave. It then uses Dragon Breath, and Kabuterimon is fully paralyzed. Another Dragon Breath and a full paralysis later, I decide to try my luck out with Horn Attack. We take the last Dragon Breath, then knock out Dragonair with another Horn Attack. She sends out a second Dragonair, and I switch into Tauros as she goes for another Dragon Breath. I go for Scary Face, slowing down Dragonair as it misses a Thunder Wave. We try for an Iron Tail, but miss. Then Dragonair lands the second Thunder Wave. I try for another Iron Tail, but miss again. Then Dragonair uses Thunderbolt, and I try for yet another Iron Tail, but miss again. I switch into Peckerhead, completely forgetting about Thunderbolt, but luckily it does less than half. I immediately switch again into Bulbasaur, who takes the Thunderbolt handily. A Body Slam does some solid damage, but Bulbasaur gets paralyzed instead of Dragonair. Bulbasaur is hit with Dragon Breath, then is fully paralyzed. Kinda getting sick of that. We hit with the next Body Slam, leaving Dragonair in the red. We're hit with another Dragon Breath before taking it down. Claire sends out a third Dragonair, and holy shit, they should have had more Dragon types for this gym. I send out Hindenburg, who takes a critical Ice Beam. He then uses Sludge, which does over half to Dragonair, leaving it poisoned, and Claire goes for another Thunder Wave. She then hits with Dragon Breath, and Weezing takes out the with another Sludge. She sends out her ace, Kingdra, so I switch into Hydra. I then go for my secret weapon, the only reasonably attainable counter to Kingdra at this point of the game, Twister. Yeah, well that sucks. Kingdra used Hyper Beam, and I decide to pivot into Dragon Rage, which does much more damage than Twister did. I lock myself into Thrash, but Kingdra survives, and then misses with the Hyper Beam. Claire uses a Hyper Potion, then I'm able to get 2 more Thrashes off before Kingdra uses Surf. I go for Twister, forgetting about the confusion from Thrash, but manage not to kill myself and take Kingdra down instead. Claire is in disbelief and pulls a Whitney, denying us our badge. We go into the Dragon Den, and this dick tells us we're not allowed here, so we kick his ass to prove him wrong. We then talk to another old man to help us out. There are other ages and genders, Game Freak. Come on. So he tells Claire to grow up, and she gives us our final badge. We magically appear at Victory Road and catch a Rhyhorn named Killdozer. Then we collect the TM for Earthquake before facing off against our rival. He leads with Sneasel this time as I go for Tauros. An Iron Tail lands fast and hard, knocking Sneasel out cold. Holy crap, that's a powerful attack. He sends out Golbat, and I switch into Weezing, still not having learned my lesson about locking myself into Rollout. He uses Wing Attack, then Confuse Ray, causing Weezing to hit himself in the face body. The Berg breaks out of confusion, and then starts to roll out again, and takes another Wing Attack. Hindenburg takes out Golbat after taking some more damage, then Carrot Top sends out Kadabra. Welp, I'm sorry Weezing. But wait! Kadabra uses Future Sight instead of Psybeam. Hindenburg misses with Rollout, giving me the opportunity to switch out into Ash Cottom. I go for Strength and knock out Kadabra in one hit. Carrot Top sends out Magneton, and Tauros takes the Future Sight attack. Tauros uses Surf, doing more than half damage to Magneton with a crit, then gets paralyzed by a Thunder Wave. I swear to God if I get hit with Thunder Wave again, it'll be too soon. Magneton hits with Thunder Shock and survives another Surf. Another Thunder Shock, and Tauros connects with another Surf, taking down those steel balls. Haunter comes out, and we both cry about not having anyone to get our trade evolutions. But I send out Peckerhead, and one Drill Peck takes out Haunter. His final Pokemon comes out, Typhlosion. Having switched out Gyarados for an HM user, I stay in, doing massive damage with the Drill Peck. Peckerhead tanks the Flame Wheel and goes for the kill shot, taking down the starter that we probably should have chosen. Carrot Top realizes that he needs friends for half of his Pokemon to evolve, so he leaves to go find some. Our final team is assembled, and I'm not gonna lie, it's not looking good. With very few TMs currently accessible, we can only hope that our team's learn set will be good enough to get us through the Elite Four. We have Ashcottam the Tauros with Strength, Surf, Scary Face, and Tauros with Strength, Surf, Scary Face, and Iron Tail. Hail Hydra the Gyarados with Surf, Twister, Dragon Rage, and Thrash. Peckerhead the Fearow with Drill Peck, Fury Attack, Pursuit, and Fly. Kabuterimon the Heracross with Horn Attack, Fury Cutter, Endure, and Reversal. Hindenburg the Weezing with Sludge, Rollout, Smokescreen, and Explosion. And finally, Bulbasaur with Razor Leaf, Light Screen, Body Slam, and Reflect. But before carrying on, I decide to teach Earthquake to Kabuterimon instead of Endure, and Dragon Breath to Hail Hydra instead of Twister. Elite Four Will is our first challenge here. He leads with Xatu, and I lead with Ashcottam. Strength almost takes him out with one shot, and he retaliates with a Psychic. I go for Iron Tail, expecting the heal, but he doesn't, and I take him down anyways. He sends out Jinx next, and I miss the Iron Tail, and Jinx gives a big smoochie on the bull's lips, causing him to fall asleep for some reason. Jinx then hits the critical Psychic, losing me my first member of the Elite Four run. I send out Kabuterimon and go for Earthquake, getting the one-shot knockout. Xatu comes out, and I stay in after checking that he doesn't have any flying moves and expecting Psychic to be neutral. A Horn Attack does solid damage, but his Psychic ends up being super effective, doing more than half to Kabuterimon. Expecting either Will to heal or for me to outspeed his Pokemon, Xatu goes to full health, but Horn Attack brings him right back down. Again, I know I outspeed, so I go for Horn Attack, which brings down the second Xatu. Not wanting to take a super effective Psychic from Exeggutor, I switch into Hindenburg to take a super effective Psychic. Yeah, not very bright of me. I then make the correct switch into Peckerhead, who loses more than half his health on the Psychic. Knowing I'll need him for Bruno, I switch into Hail Hydra and take another Psychic. I go for Dragon Breath, but don't get the paralysis, and Exeggutor sets up a Reflect. I go for the fixed 40 damage with Dragon Rage, and the Eggy Boy uses another Psychic. I switch into Bulbasaur in order to set up a Light Screen. The screen goes up, and Bulbasaur easily takes the Psychic. I go for Body Slam and get the Paralyze, and Will switches tactics and goes for a physical move. Is the AI actually smart in this game? I'm impressed. Another Body Slam gets a crit, and Will sends out his last Pokemon, Slowbro. Why not a Slowking to showcase the new evolution? Who knows. With the Light Screen still up, I use a Razor Leaf, doing more than half. He then surprises me again by using Amnesia, which keeps him alive for the next Razor Leaf. But Bulbasaur tanks his Psychic and knocks him out with another Razor Leaf. I heal my 5 remaining Pokemon and head in to challenge Koga. Koga leads with Ariados, and Peckerhead takes him out with a single Drill Peck. I can't honestly think of a time that it's ever taken more than one hit to knock out Ariados. The Fortress comes in next, and I use Fly, just in case he uses Explosion. He then uses Protect, and holy shit, this AI is seriously blowing me away. I then go straight for Drill Peck, and he uses a Swift. I Drill Peck again and get a critical, disarming that live grenade. Koga sends out Muck, and I switch into Kabuterimon. Muck sets up an Acid Armor, but Earthquake still does half damage. He uses Minimize, but Kabuterimon shakes the world, and Muck just can't avoid it, laying down in defeat. Koga sends out Venomoth, which I now realize is not part flying, so Earthquake would have finished him off, but I switch into Hindenburg as it uses a Supersonic. Venomoth hits with a nasty Psychic, and Weezing smacks himself in the face body again. I then trade into Peckerhead, who takes a Psychic, then takes down Venomoth with a Drill Peck. Crobat comes out and starts setting up double teams, causing Drill Peck to miss. He wing attacks, and Fearow retaliates with a Drill Peck, doing over half his HP and damage. We trade flying moves again, and Crobat is down. No losses this time, so we just heal up and move on to the next room. Bruno sends out Hitmontop first, dealing virtually no damage, and then falling to a single Drill Peck from Peckerhead. Bruno then sends out Onix, so I switch into Bulbasaur. He's used a Sandstorm, which is an interesting choice since 4 out of 5 of his Pokemon take damage from it. Bulbasaur uses Razor Leaf, and Onix is gone. Hitmonchan comes out next. I know Fire Punch won't do shit against Bulbasaur, so I take the time to set up a Reflect. Bulbasaur takes a crit and some Sandstorm damage, so I decide to switch into Fearow again. Another Fire Punch, and we both take Sandstorm damage, then Fearow gets a TKO with Drill Peck. Machamp comes out, and I go for Drill Peck, unaware of Machamp's Rock Slide, but Reflect helps prevent a good chunk of damage. A Max Potion on Machamp only delays the inevitable, and he goes down after 2 more flying attacks. Hitmonlee comes out last, and a Drill Peck wins the day, leaving 2 more battles. Karen sends out Umbreon, and I send out Heracross. I start setting up Fury Cutter to see how far that gets me, but Umbreon sets up Sand Attack in return. My second Fury Cutter hits, and Umbreon uses Feint Attack. The third Fury Cutter hits and takes out Umbreon. Vileplume comes out, and then Karen gets the deke on me, and I go for Fury Cutter thinking Vileplume is Grass Dark. Kabu misses though, and gets sprayed in the face with a Stun Spore. Still thinking of the wrong typing, I go for another Fury Cutter, which is in fact not super effective. We trade Fury Cutters and Petal Dances until Kabuterimon misses and or is paralyzed too many times, so I switch into Peckerhead. Vileplume continues with Petal Dance, doing not very effective damage to the big ol' bird. Drill Peck gets rid of Vileplume, and Karen sends out Gengar, also not a dark type. Drill Peck does over half, but a Spite drains the remaining PP. Peckerhead flies into the air, causing Spite to miss, and then slams down hard on Gengar, taking her out of the fight. Murkrow comes out, and it's bird versus bird. Then I switch into Hindenburg. Feint Attack hurts, but with both her remaining Pokemon being weak to rock, I start to roll out. Murkrow is just over half HP, but hits with another Feint Attack, leaving Hindenburg at much lower HP than I'm comfortable with. Rollout continues and takes down Murkrow. Then Houndoom comes out and outspeeds Weezing, getting a lucky critical on Pursuit, which I think he would have survived otherwise, but Hindenburg crashes to the ground. I then send out Gyarados and use Surf, but with his bad special attack, it's not enough to take out Houndoom. But then we easily take the crunch, then put the pup in the and only the champion remains. Gyarados leads, and I can only wish that I had I Spy to zap the flying water snake. A Horn Attack from Kabuterimon does about 33% damage, and Gyarados sets up a Rain Dance. Another Horn Attack puts him in the yellow, and Heracross shrugs off a rain-boosted Surf, further proving Gyarados' bad special attack stat. One more Horn Attack, and Kabuterimon wins the battle, but the war is not over. Lance sends out the Speed Demon Aerodactyl, and I switch into Hail Hydra. Wing Attack does okay damage, but a super effective Rock Slide brings Gyarados near to death. Thankfully, Surf brings down Aerodactyl, and Lance sends out his first Dragonite. I go for Dragon Breath, praying to get good damage and a paralysis, but I get neither, and Hail Hydra is fried by a Thunder Attack. Unsure of who is best to take on this Dragonite, I send out Heracross and use Horn Attack. It does decent damage, but he then gets paralyzed by a Thunder Wave. And I see where Claire got her tactics from. Heracross survives a Hyper Beam and hits with another Horn Attack. Lance doesn't get to heal, and Kabuterimon takes down the first Dragonite. Charizard comes out next, and knowing that Kabuterimon will be useless to switch into later with this low of health, I just go for another attack. But a 4 times effective Wing Attack brings down the Hercules Beetle. I send out Peckerhead to spare Bulbasaur a humiliating defeat at the hands of his archenemy, and go for Fly, doing just under half to Charizard. Flamethrower does just barely more than half to Fearow, and Peckerhead gets another fly off before being served up at the nearest KFC. It's Bulbasaur versus Charizard, and a Body Slam takes down the glorified lizard. But with a Blizzard summoning Dragonite on the horizon, I set up a light screen and pray. Another Thunder Wave lands, and then a critical Twister makes Bulbasaur flinch. Dragonite hits with Blizzard, and Bulbasaur takes it like a champ, but gets fully paralyzed. Dragonite misses his second Blizzard, and a Body Slam from Bulbasaur paralyzes him. But alas, Body Slam doesn't do enough, and Dragonite breaks through the paralysis, and a Hyper Beam signs Bulbasaur's DNR forms. The war is lost in the championship battle. It was a long and grueling challenge, and despite the lower level caps, this game was actually much more difficult than Yellow. The available TMs are mostly garbage, and many were not learnable by my team. I lost a few good Pokemon early like Slowpoke and Poliwhirl, and I am fully aware that I used some awful Pokemon like Unknown and Meganium, but I wanted to spice it up a little bit and bring in some bonus challenges. I'm not sure I've ever used Meganium before, and now I know why. He wasn't particularly bad, especially seeing that he was the last to fall, but I know for Alligator or Typhlosion would have made a huge difference in the outcome, changing the way I built my team as well as having access to Ice Punch and Thunder Punch respectively, which would have been so much better for the Elite Four. Kadabra also would have been a great choice, but I used one in Yellow and I didn't want to use the same Pokemon again, as well as not being able to trade for Alakazam or to get a Slowking, which I think would have helped greatly. Suicune also would have been a great choice for the Elite Four, but honestly I think I just forgot to go back for it after I got the Master Ball. I know some people ban legendaries in Nuzlocke, but I say as long as it's the first Pokemon you encounter in the area, it's fair game, barring the use of repels to get to them. Another issue is that the rare candy cheat I used to level up for the Elite Four ended up deleting all my other items by the end, and I didn't realize it until it was too late, so I lost out on some hold items and some ethers and elixirs, which might have been useful for Fearow in the end. I made some silly mistakes, and after going back through the footage, I underestimated the AI in Crystal, which may have been more devastating than I realized. My Pokemon Yellow videos got me over 2,700 views and over 60 new subscribers, which I know is minuscule in the world of YouTube, but with all the attempts I've made to be a content creator, I've never actually had more than a few dozen views, and I'm absolutely ecstatic to see these numbers, and I appreciate the hell out of each and every one of you. I'll be starting to livestream my Gen 2 Living Dex project very soon on Twitch, and I would love to have you on that journey with me, so stay tuned for the exact dates if that interests you. Leave me some feedback in the forms of comments or the thumb buttons. My name is Jimmy. Thanks for watching.